Hello, everyone. I think this is probably going to be the style of videos that I post, or at least one of them, where I just kind of walk. It's like a point of view sort of thing. I'm not really sure. I mean, I could like flip around and, do this, but like some vlogger, but, I don't know. I just feel like it might be important that you get to see my point of view, what I'm kind of looking at, when I'm recording this. But regardless, today I want to talk about why anything that you do is a good thing. Everybody has activities that they partake in, interests, etc. Fucking asshole. Why don't they make electric powered fucking leaf blowers that aren't as loud as shit like that? I think you could probably hear me still, but regardless, yeah, interests, everybody has an interest, doesn't matter on your age, doesn't matter your religion, your gender, anything, you have a interest. Me personally, I have quite a few different interests, in fact, very many, but some of the ones that have been kind of taken over my life, for the most part, some of them that really defined me, is a lot of the music that I listen to, particularly heavy metal, martial arts. I'm a second-degree black belt, and I'm actually going to school for automotive technologies, so I'm rather well-versed in cars. History is another very big one. I can tell you anything about any historical thing ever, pretty much. And really, the list just keeps going, Like, I have at least some minor amount of interest in many things, really. But, an interest ultimately is just kind of a way to express yourself, If you are interested in something, that usually manifests in kind of how you talk to other people, how you are perceived by other people, how you physically look, That's all that's all thanks to your interests, Maybe there's a couple other things that I'm glossing over, but generally that's kind of how that is. You just are interested in things, and, well, yes, that's just what happens. And, there's so many things to be interested in. It's honestly really cool, I personally have met a lot of people in my life. The vast majority of them I don't talk to anymore, but, they are interested in things, They're interested in a lot of very interesting and special things. And that's really cool, because that's what allows the world to be as diverse as it is. One of the biggest things that I like to tell people is you should always try to learn shit. Try to learn new things. And yeah, that's like really good. You can learn a lot of shit from learning new shit. And if you learn more things, you learn, well, more things. And if you're open to learning more things, then you become smarter. And there's a lot of people that, I'm not even going to talk about it from like a teacher standpoint, like, oh, learning's cool, learning is fun too. Because, I've met some rather dumb people. Well, they're dumb in the sense that, for instance, they don't really know too much about things, or they are kind of not well versed in talking with people. Their understanding on how the world works is rather not good. It's various things. And I believe that that's very sad, and they should try to do better. They should try to really be able to learn more. Because, post in the comments, I guess, what is one downside of being very smart? In fact, you know what? I think I can think of something. The one downside of being, extremely smart is that you're kind of just, because of course for every one or so smart people, there's maybe 3 or 4 dumb people. And it kind of puts you in a position where you're not really able to relate to that many people. Because you know more about something than they do, and it kind of just makes them feel like this guy's dangerous, because why does he know so much? I'm confused. And like a natural thing that people do is they just kind of are repelled by that, because they're not really familiar with, what you're saying, and just kind of makes you like, it makes you scared, not knowing what somebody's going to say. So, or not knowing something. So yeah, that's probably one downside of being so smart, is you just have absolutely no idea, like you can't relate to people. And they have absolutely no idea, how to talk to you almost. In a sense, being smart is also kind of alienating. It alienates you in a different way, than kind of being dumb is. Because, there's a lot of dumb people. And there's a lot of really, really dumb people, actually. And that's sad, because it's so the world is so full of things, but instead what they decide to do is to just... Oh, that was a loud motorcycle, Jesus Christ. I don't even know where that motorcycle is. I don't know if that's coming across on camera really well, but sorry about that. Yeah, there's so many smart people, and there's a lot of dumb people, and they don't do, they just, oh, I know what I was about to say. They just don't really, they're just very one-dimensional. Like, instead of, learning about the world and, trying to do as much as they can, what do? They divide themselves by getting involved in politics, or they just focus on one thing. They work the same job 9 to 5 till they're old, and at that point, there's not much time left to really do stuff. That's all they do. Is they just kind of waste their lives away doing rather unproductive stuff. And yeah, I mean, there is a certain usefulness to both of those examples I just gave. For instance, for instance, politics, that's, as much as it sucks, people lynching others in the street, and other people just, heated arguments, many evils committed in the name of politics. As much as that sucks, that is also kind of necessary. It's a necessary evil, sort of, because without politics, governments wouldn't really exist. The world is dictated by politics, and how the nations of the world interact with each other, how individual nations, provide for their citizens. It's all politics. As much as it sucks, a lot of it is politics. And that's why it's kind of so easy to disagree with people on politics, is because it's just very, there's so many solutions to problems. Some of them are right to some people, others are wrong to other people. Personally, I can't really tell you, I don't really want to tell you what I believe in when it comes to this stuff. I mean, personally, I feel like I have a decent understanding how the world works, but at the same time, it's just, it's so like nuanced and diverse that, I would probably say something and I'd offend a lot of people. And, that's just how that is. And unfortunately, you can't really please everybody, even though I try to do that. I try to position myself as somebody who's friendly and open and that they can trust with things, but it ultimately never really pans out in that kind of way. And, it's divided. The other thing I was talking about earlier there was jobs. You work a 9 to 5 for 60 years of your life. You start work right after high school. You don't go to college. You don't do things. You don't advance your education. You just work at a grocery store from when you're 18 until you're like 68 or something. Then you retire, and that's your life. That's 50 years, about at least 2/3 of your life on average. It's just working to help kind of keep a machine running, sort of. Because a business is a machine of sorts. And that's important. Don't get me wrong, that is very important. We should that is a good thing, that, how society works. That's another necessary evil, though. Some people need to sacrifice everything they have in order to keep society running, and for little benefit of their own. Some people literally die working the hard grunt jobs, sorta. I don't know a good word for that would be. But they have to work just extremely hard and not really get much in benefit, not much in return. It's just how it is. But so that begs one more question. What can you do? As a person watching this video, which, as I record this, probably won't be too many, but hopefully that can change. The answer is, I really don't know. Again, going back to earlier, everybody's so diverse. That's a beautiful thing, but in the same way, fixes don't exactly apply to every person. There's not one size fits all, or one size fits all when it comes to this stuff. That's just how it is. You can't really recommend something to everybody and they all follow it and they all receive their own version of being happy or, being satisfied. Just look at get-rich-quick schemes, Those don't apply to everybody. Politics from earlier, one person can think that we need to fix the job market and make universal health care, universal. And another person thinks that we should just work and allow more productivity. And if people aren't able to provide for themselves, so be it. Only people that provide to the system should be able to, receive any sort of benefits, And to a certain extent, they're both right, But what I'm trying to say is there's no one size fits all. Holy shit, that is a big fucking bee. I'm very afraid of bees. And they are everywhere. There's probably a bee's nest somewhere nearby. I'm not sure. But as I was saying, what I would recommend is to just work at whatever you find interesting. Just work at whatever you might think is important or good for you. Because in reality, you are all different. Everybody who watches this video is different than me in some way. And, if you think that working at a grocery store for 50 years, while you don't do anything, that's fine, I guess, you might as well, you can do that if you want, or somebody else tries to visit every country. That just so happens to be something that I'm interested in probably doing at some point as well, And they're like, wow, look at all this insane diversity. That's kind of the dichotomy here is, do something, that's the thing that, you have to figure out on your own. Is try to be a better person by learning or maybe doing some physical exercise or whatever? Or should I try to keep being who I am now, and focusing on that? That's ultimately a decision that you gotta make for yourself. Alright, you know what? This isn't the end of the video. It would be a nice ending if I just, panned up this big street here, but it's not the end. I'm just gonna say real quick, I don't know what the hell I was doing by making this. I just kind of talked, for, it's now almost 19 minutes, and I feel like that was a good idea to just kind of get some stuff put out there, because it's just I want to upload more. I want to be able to make videos, and I want to be able to maybe get some sort of small following of people that just watches my shit. A lot of these videos are more so intended for as like a character assessment sort of thing. Like, this is what he believes in. Look at this young gentleman. He's talking on a YouTube video for 20 minutes about basically being yourself. I guess I would probably title this video something like, you you being the person you are is a good thing, Rant, or something like that. I just kind of felt, I felt like uploading something, right now, or today, but I just don't know. I couldn't really think of anything while I was on my walk here, so I just decided to talk about whatever the fuck for 20 minutes, and, well, if you found it interesting, I guess like and subscribe. If you didn't find it interesting, fuck you, I guess. I don't know. I think it's very nice and interesting. I'm probably gonna do other shit like this, like make some sort of storyline, or storyline. That's another thing. These videos are not scripted. I just fucking talk, and if I stutter, that's in the video, and you're gonna have to hear it. But yeah, maybe just like some sort of story time. I'll talk about shit that's happened in my life, funny or otherwise. You don't get to decide that. I do. Or I might do like music reviews, because I really like music, like not just heavy metal. This music's really cool. More gaming content might come out as well. The upload before this, I was working on my Minecraft base, and it's almost done, actually. I just really need to do a couple more things, and then it's basically finished. I'll, of course, show you. You guys, yeah, that's like very cool. And yeah, I guess that's really about it. Again, like and subscribe for some sort of similar content to this. You could also share this with people. Hopefully, fucking Instagram and TikTok and all these stupid short form content platforms don't take over YouTube, and I can keep posting here until I'm like maybe a 90-year-old man. By that point, I probably won't give too much of a fuck. I would have lived just about long enough. And yeah, that's about it. See ya.